The value a lot of people get from their jobs are autonomy, recognition, compensation, and of course, respect. But unfortunately, many times, all of these attributes start to slide. And what do? We continue, keep on trucking on. Why? Because we're conditioned to accept these less than ideal conditions. Welcome back to the hustle, everybody, and welcome back to the grind. And thanks so much, Taylor. I really appreciate it. Taylor reached out, sent me a super thanks. And thanks again, Taylor, who's 27 and says, you know what, hopefully in 40 years, he'll still be able to think back and see what YouTube is offering up. Channels like this that we can talk openly and freely about a lot of these thoughts, concerns, and issues related to related to work, employment, retirement, and just life in general. So thanks again so much, Taylor. I really do appreciate it. Thought I'd go with this brand today, and it's a beautiful day out here today. It feels a wee bit on the warmer side today for a change, and we've been good. It's been amazing, and hopefully Halloween's looking out great for the little ones when they start to hit the streets and start knocking on the doors. But anyway, getting back to the topic about the job, the recognition, and the fact that we're all conditioned to accept these unideal conditions. I mean, when you think about it, you work in a lot of these corporate environments, and they are the absolute worst. I mean, if you work for small ma and pa shops, a lot of times it's more personable. And when you get that little attaboy, that recognition from your boss, you feel good. It actually makes you feel nice. And I know as a team lead from many years ago, I think back, throwing those recognitions, not too many, but when it really felt right, it meant something. It felt genuine. And people really appreciated that. And you could tell. But what we're starting to find in the corporate world, a lot of these attributes that people value and put their value in just aren't there anymore. You think about pay. Well, you can always argue we can always use a little more pay with the cost of living. Of course, recognition. I don't think we get too many attaboys, but sure, when we mess up, we definitely hear about it. Even that sense of purpose. You get into a corporate world. A lot of people these days, and I certainly know many of them, started out in their school. They went to university, college, whatever, got a degree, came out maybe as an engineer. Next thing you know, they have nothing to do with what they went to school for. And see, some of the harsh realities of the 9-to-5 grind is that we're often conditioned to accept these situations. When you think about it, if you're working for the corporate space, and I get it, you're trading time for money, but it's actually really more than that. They're actually conditioning you to accept this state of being. What is that? Showing up from this time to this time, the conditions that you have to contact this person, communicate in this way, say these certain things, dress a certain way, not say certain things. All of these things that were these directives that are advised when we sit down with our supervisor or HR, and they tell us, thou shalt comply. Here's a whole list, 500 checklist item that you better go through and review and then sign back to HR when you take on your job role. See, these are things that often we overlook. We're just happy to get a job. So we sign on the dotted line, but sometimes we don't even realize what we even signed up for. A lot of times we actually end up signing up for something that is not entirely related to our job in the first place. Morning.
Good morning.
And you know what? There's so many cases where people end up going to school and they go to school, they think when they're 18, 19 years of age that they have it all figured out. But when you think about it, what were you doing when you're 18, 19 years of age? Probably partying, having a good time with your friends. Do you think you were in any state to make some major lifetime changes or decisions? But that's what we're faced with. And now it's not that we shouldn't grow up. We all have to grow up and make a decision. But some of those values that people have today, you look back retrospectively and say, I never even knew. Things like autonomy, having that freedom, the freedom to do what you want, to not be hassled and bothered. Just be given a task, navigate some of the challenges, and then of course be on your merry way without too much hassle. Because one of the things that a lot of people find in the 9-to-5 is the boss. The boss just grinds you down to a nub, especially micromanagement bosses. Those are a lot of people that quite often create a really toxic work environment. But again, it comes down to this conditioning conversation. We're told that when we're in this corporate space that we have to act, say, and dress a certain way. And we're okay with that. But it adds all those layers of stress upon stress. And do you realize working for the corporate space actually costs you a lot more than you would even believe? That's right, both monetarily as well as mental health, physical health. All of those factors take a toll when you start working. Why? Well, I've got many stories, and I think about things like going to college, going to university, taking out that big student loan. I came across a video recently where they talked about a young lady who actually took out about $150,000 worth of student loans to get through university, came out at the other side, only to actually have to try to pay it down. But the total lump sum after payout, with interest charges and all the other ancillaries, it ended up costing almost $240,000. So that $150,000 now turns into more like $250,000. Reverse engineer that, now you're actually closer to $400,000 or $500,000 before tax earnings. How many years do you actually have to work to now make that up? See, what a lot of people are starting to realize today, this whole idea of, working hard, going to school, get your best career and be on your way, that actually mattered. And it still sort of matters to some degree. But more people now are finding, more interest and certainly more engagement in doing other things. Self-employment, where you can work for yourself. You can make your own decisions. You have your own level of autonomy. See, because when you work in the corporate space, you work in the 9 to 5, a lot of people just pretty much sign off on autonomy. They assume that they need to be told what to do. The bosses are going to give them directives. The bosses above them are going to give them directives. And it's very, very tightly wound system. This is just a system that we all get accustomed to. And, the worst part is none of us are at fault for this. We're all sort of told when we're young and we're going to school and we sit down now with the guidance counselors that this is what's best for us. They know what the market demands are. They know what the best employers are. If you do X, Y, Z, and 1, 2, 3, you'll be able to get a job with them. And then you'll be on the winning streak. See, but what we don't realize is at first you get into these corporate environments and you think you've got it made. But see, what you don't realize is a lot of these jobs that you get in the corporate space specifically, you end up not even needing the schooling you went to school for in the first place. So we spend these hundreds of thousands of dollars going to school, university, post-secondary, just to figure out that, 10 or 15, 20 years down the road, you're doing nothing. You're in a different discipline. Maybe you're leading a team of people. Maybe you've transitioned to another environment. Maybe you've totally done a full over switch to the career type. I mean, it happens time and time again. They do say that people swap out careers 5 to 10 times in a lifetime. So could you imagine actually going to school, investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in school because we've been conditioned to do that? Our parents taught that. Their parents probably taught them to some degree. But when you think back, more silent generation, even boomers, more of them were hands-on. See, what's starting to change now? People are starting to see the corporate environment for what it is. And if you really look at things like the unemployment rate today is affecting most who? Professionals, white collar, the corporate space, right? If you're in IT, if you're in some kind of, even in the energy sectors, or if you are in, just think of anything that's computers, IT, or anything related to tech. Tech has been one of the biggest, hardest hit areas. And a lot of them are white collar type careers. Go to school, computer engineering, computer sciences, electrical engineering, automation. All of those areas are fascinating, technical. And it takes a lot of extra, smarts sometimes, arguably, to take some of these degrees. So you would think that would pay off. But what people are starting to realize is they're finding a lot more autonomy by starting their own jobs, figuring out, breaking that mold, moving on from what this 9 to 5 grind suggests that we should all be doing, which is complying, conforming, and being conditioned to what the expectations are set previous. See, this is a situation that a lot of us just get wrangled up in, and we believe it's for the best. And in some cases, it probably is, because let's face it, the mass majority of the population needs to be told what to do. That's just how it is. It's not good, bad, or indifferent. I was there too. But I did start to break away from the mold, and I start to figure out that this isn't the best way, at least not for me. There are people that aren't independent thinkers. There's people now that have been conditioned, lots of people, to be told exactly what to do, where to do it, and how to get there. So you need this type of schooling, you get this type of job at this type of company, and the next thing you know, you're set on your way. And this is the navigation to success. But I'll be honest, in my life, I've met many millionaires and a couple of billionaires. And I'll be honest, what I've seen from some of these people, they all say the same thing: taking chances. And it's taking chances didn't come working, grinding at a desk at a 9 to 5. See, there's a stark reality that people that are conditioned have complied. And again, it's okay. Not everybody can think outside the box, and it's not easy, and it's very stressful. It can be extraordinarily stressful to actually go out there on your own, figure something out, navigate life, and know that you have to bring home the proverbial bacon. But when the rewards come, it's massive, because many people that I've met that are in those upper percentiles that I just met in passing through clubs or what have you, a lot of them all kind of are doing the same thing. Independent, their own entrepreneurial business that they've succeeded at. That being said, many businesses fail and flounder for years. So it's not always the answer either. It's not a silver bullet, so to speak, but nothing worth owning is easy. And that's ultimately one of the key phrases that I've heard from many of these people, is that you've got to grind, you've got to hustle. And when people are kicking their boots off, when they're kicking their boots off on that Friday evening or that Thursday evening, these people are still looking at new ways, building, developing business, dealing with business matters. They've never turned it off. And while some would argue, well, then what kind of life is that if you live around that? The key again is, like I've said before, it's not working till the end of time. The idea behind that is utilizing and using those abilities and, of course, your business structure and model to eventually transition yourself to a more free situation. And sure, while you're tethered, while you're working, and we're all in some way tethered, chasing the dollar or what have you, or trying to climb the corporate ladder, there is a certain amount of freedom that comes in independence. And while you are tethered, that independence throughout your own job allows you to do those things, allows you to go for a walk on a Friday morning, allows you to go golfing with your friends or coworkers whenever you want. It allows you to just take off when you want. It allows you to go traveling, but it also, in many cases, offers up a little bit extra resources to do some things, not just that you have time for, but you can afford to do. And this is the things that we've all been set up to believe. See, a lot of times, what do we do in the corporate environment or the jobs? A lot of people, think about it. You know, they're always stressed out all week long, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, grinding, the hustle, the grind, they push. What? Just to hit Friday evening, and then everybody gets hammered, get drunk. Or even the other scenario is a lot of people end up buying that camper, a trailer. They may not even care about camping, but they justify it in their own minds that I love camping. Why? Well, because it's their escape. It's an escape. Whether they get drunk or go camping, it's their escape from that whole work week that they just dealt with and just got absolutely abolished and smashed over. So now Friday comes around, they race around, try to hook up their camper, their trailer, race off out to the lake, spend the next 2 hours setting everything up, just to sit back, have a beer, chill out by the campfire, have one night out, get up the next day, spend a day by the campfire, maybe do a little fishing, just to tear it down on Sunday morning and race back home again and do it all over again. And this is a great lifestyle. Don't get me wrong. Like, we lived that for years. But this is the escape that a lot of people rely on because of that 9 to 5 grind, because of the hustle they've been dealing with for the last how many years. I heard another fact I didn't realize, that student loans are one of the few loans that really can't default. I mean, you can get a car loan, a loan for just about anything, and you can have that defaulted, and of course that hits your credit score. But from what I heard is you don't actually get defaulted on a student loan. You could actually carry it for years. That's why a lot of people end up just paying it off over years and years and years. It's one of the biggest growing debts, one of the biggest line items for many people just trying to recuperate their financial shortcomings. And here's a reality. I heard of a story as well somewhere. I was watching something where there was an old gentleman who basically was at the tail end of his life. He was collecting Social Security, and they were actually taking money off the top to pay back that student loan, which he took back when he was 18 or 19 years of age. That's right, they actually were starting to trim some money off, just trying to get that cash back. How is that? Trying to invest in your future only to find that that is the exact thing that is holding you back. And this is the thing, we all conform, we comply. And again, if we don't know better, that's just what we do. I mean, we've all had those recommendations, we've all had those suggestions by our parents, by guidance counselors, that what we've got to do is find a career. They start sitting down with you, go through, the recommended choices based on your likes, your interests, and your abilities. And next thing you know, you're on the fast track to some sort of new career. The downside is sometimes that costs a significant amount of money, and now you're locked into some massive long-term student loan debt. Why? Because we're conditioned to believe that that's exactly what it takes to be successful. For some people it is. Some people find great careers that are very successful in many ways. But many other people just find success in more independent, thinking outside the box ways. Anyway, that's the bottom line. Thanks again so much, Taylor. I really appreciate the coffee. I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful weekend. I'd love to hear more from each and every one of you. Please do drop a line, and we'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.